it's Lee from colouringqueen.net, and I'm taking part in my very first colour along today. It's the Polar Bears in November colour along, and I first seen this when Imogen from Colouring Kid added it to my event calendar at Colouring Queen, and I thought, polar bears, how cute. I've never actually coloured a polar bear, and in fact I've hardly coloured any animals at all, and so I was a bit confused about how to do this one, but I thought, why not challenge myself, and I'll give it a shot and, see if I can do a polar bear picture for this colour along. So my very first colour along, and it's going for all of November. It's the Polar Bears in November is the hashtag, and you can find out more at Colouring Kid, and I'll link to her channel below. So I have sped up this video. I've put it to twice as fast, so I'm twice as slow as what you're seeing here. Or no, I'm half as slow. Oh, I don't know, my maths is so bad. I sped it up because it takes so long for me to upload the video. So in reality it took me 2 hours to do this picture. And the other reason that I sped it up and did it this way is because I've got a lot of construction noise during the day here when I coloured this in, and I needed a quiet time to do the audio so that you didn't have a jackhammer in your ear. So what I decided for the background, I was really inspired by the picture that Molly Harrison herself had done, and which is on her Etsy store. And gee, she's a gorgeous artist. I seen this picture, I already had another one of hers in line art of a polar bear with a fairy on it, and but I seen this picture in her new colouring book. It's an artist edition called Whimsical Winter or something like that, and I knew I wouldn't be able to get the book in time for this colour along because it was only a physical book, and also the shipping to Australia is just horrendous, so I'd just prefer to buy a digital copy. Anyway, I seen the picture, but it wasn't as a colouring page, so I messaged her and asked her if at some stage it would be turned into a colouring page as a single download that I could buy. And by the next morning, she'd already put it up in her shop and messaged me back saying that she'd now made it available. So isn't that super sweet? She's lovely, isn't she? But I seen her picture of it, and it was all purples, and it looked absolutely beautiful. So I thought, I'm going to give this a crack and see if I can emulate something that is totally inspired by Molly's own coloured version of it. So I've given it a fair crack. Obviously I'm no Molly Harrison and I'm just a beginner, but we'll see. See what you think at the end, how well I did, bearing in mind that I'm not used to colouring animals and I'm only a beginner, so be easy. But so I had these stamp pads that I got from the $2 shop, or the discount shop. I think some of you call it the dollar store. And I'd never used them, and I had these little spongy things that I'd got from there as well. So I thought I'd just do 2 colours on the background. And I wasn't worried so much about going over the snowflakes because I was going to add an effect later on and they wouldn't really matter. Hello, Millie. Yeah, as soon as she sees that camera, it doesn't matter where she is in the house. As soon as she hears that click, she wants to be in on the action. You can see her little whiskers up there. She's so cute. So I wanted to darken up some of that background with some Prismacolor pencil, but I wasn't really too sure about that, to be honest. It sort of looked a bit weird over the grayscale. This picture is also available as line art, so I think if I had the line art, I'd just probably do it maybe all in pencil. I don't know. It'd take forever to do that though. I don't know. Maybe something completely different. So as well as colouring this picture for the colour along, we've been pretty busy. What have we been up to? It was David's birthday on Sunday, so I had hoped that we would go over to this nice restaurant. It's been voted one of the 10 best sunsets in Australia. so you can look out and see the sunset and all that razzmatazz. I thought that might be very romantic, after 20 years together. So I thought it'd be nice to go over there. And he wanted a, what's it called? A soundbar boombox type thing for his birthday. Anyway, the whole day turned into a disaster. We went for breakfast over on the water at a place called Redcliffe, which is right on the water. We've been over there many times before for breakfast, but I don't know what was going on today. They had, Sunday, sorry. They had market stalls on, and even though the cafe we went to was half empty, it was like they'd had absolutely no idea of how to run a cafe, because, there was dirty tables everywhere and build-up plates and filthy water bottles, and yeah, it wasn't too good, but we've eaten there before, so we kind of figured it was just maybe a one-off. Anyway, long story short, David got his breakfast and it was cold, and I got my breakfast, and the first time the order was wrong, so they took it back and had a redo on it. And the second time it was wrong again, and I just said, don't worry about it, because by that time he'd already eaten his breakfast. And so, just went without and thought, God, not coming back here again. Obviously they didn't charge me, for my not eating breakfast, but we had to wait like half an hour for a cup of coffee. And as I said, I could understand it if it was busy, but it was half empty. And I spoke to the manager, and he said, they had all new trainee staff on, which seemed like an odd decision to make, bearing in mind that they had an event on, on the water that day, and this seemed an odd decision. I think after like 30 minutes of waiting for water, we were just like panting, because it was high 30 degrees on Sunday here, and it was so hot. And we had Charlie with us, our little dog, because he loves to come out for breakfast. He thinks it's a huge treat, and most of the cafes will allow your dog to be there. And he's got his own little fold-up water bottle, water bowl that I have clipped onto my handbag. So he just needed fresh water, and there was some on the table when we first sat down, but who knows how long it had been sitting there and whatnot. I didn't want to give him that, so I normally just wait till we get water and give him my water. But we waited like half an hour for water, and we asked for it 2 or 3 times. And yeah, in the end, David went and, just sort of said, hand over the water. And they finally, gave us a bottle of water. But I felt sorry for this other, girl that came in. She was really fair and with red hair, and they sat her right in the sun with a little baby in a pram, and she was roasting like a chicken. She had some sunscreen, and she was, vigorously applying it, and in the end she just had to, say, can you please move me somewhere else? And as I said, they weren't busy, so I don't know what the story was, but I did speak to the manager, and he didn't know what was going on that day either, which didn't really instill some confidence. But anyway, so the day sort of started off a little bit, badly, and it just sort of progressed worse. It just ended up the worst birthday ever. And I've given David some, really good birthdays, I think, gondola rides around Sydney, Corvette rides, weekends away, all of that sort of thing. But this one was a massive fail. And he hadn't selected the boomboxy thing that he wanted, and there was no way I was going to buy something and I'll get the wrong thing and he won't like it. So, because he's really big on looking at all the electronics and whatnot. So anyway, so he didn't have a present, he had a lousy breakfast, and then we ended up not having time to go out for dinner. And I think we had toasted sandwiches or something, so it was pretty lame. But, before you feel sorry for him, every single year David either forgets my birthday or doesn't do anything. So, I might have a one-off where I've gone wrong, but, it's not a regular occurrence. But and the other thing was I was going to make him a cake, but because we're so busy, we decided that we'd just buy a cake. And I bought a cake, and honest to God, it was as dry as a bone. And seriously, it was so dry that you had to pile a pile of cream all over it just to soften it up so you wouldn't choke on it eating it. So, yeah, awful cake as well. But anyway, luckily, he'll have another birthday and we can make up for it. And last night we went out and I often do this, is I put more colour on and then I just rub it out a bit just to soften it down a bit. And I'd forgotten that bit that was there in between the polar bear's legs. I always forget something. I can look at a picture and then still forget to colour in something. I don't know how I managed to do that, but I always do. Yeah, so last night we went out and we got the boomboxy thing that he wanted, and it had Alexa on it, and he's got it all set up now, and he had it going last night, which the sound on it's amazing. I had to get him to turn it down so the whole neighbourhood didn't hear, his song preferences, because not everyone wants to hear AC/DC when they're going to sleep. But yeah, so he's happy. He's got his little boombox, and I'm also going to get him a Spotify subscription, because you might think I'm bad with my colouring books, but he's got about 6,000 CDs. I posted it on Facebook before, pictures of it, and it's just unbelievable. You can never find anything because there's just too many of them. So I've been begging him for years to get rid of the DVDs and the CDs, because we've got Netflix and we've got Amazon Prime, and they've both got millions of songs on them, and Netflix has got all the DVD type stuff on it. But he's very hard to let go of some things, so I'm hoping he'll get rid of them. I'd even put them on Facebook or something and sell them 20 for $20 or something, just to free up some space in the house because it's so small here. But he did want the Spotify subscription, so actually I better write that down. I'll get that for him as well, and he's got the boombox thing, and I'll take him out for dinner, and even though it's not all on his birthday, at least it's what he wants, so that's good. And you've seen what he got me for my birthday this year, which is that little fluffy thing just hanging over the background there. Millie's sitting on the picture. She loves to be in every picture. And because she's a rescue, I often wonder what she did in her previous life. Like, the vet said she was about 4 years old, but I think she must have thought she was a model or something, because any time she hears that camera click, there she is. Sorry about that. She likes to rub her face on the tripod. So if you've seen that jiggling around, that's her scratching her face. She thinks it's good fun. But yeah, I just think, what did she do in her previous life? It's like, why is it that she loves to be on camera so much? And only some books. She's very selective about which books she'll sit on or touch or put a paw on or whatnot. She's a funny little thing. So yeah, I've just gone in here with my Prismacolors. These grayscale images are just so easy to colour. I couldn't imagine being able to colour a whole line-art picture in 2 hours like this one. I really couldn't. And I mean, I cheated with the background, doing the stamps on it and not, colouring the whole thing. But I like the look of it. I think it's, I'm not used to doing backgrounds, so I think it's nice. And if I'm happy with it, that's the main thing. So as well as David's birthday, we're on a full-scale Operation Mother-in-Law project, because David's mum is coming up on Christmas Day, or on the evening. She's flying up on Christmas Day night, and with David's youngest brother. He's got a middle one as well. And so we're trying to get the house mother-in-law ready, because, I still don't have a job and David's only had the job for a couple of months now. It's kind of a bit hard because, as soon as David got a job, we used, his money to pay off bills and all the rest of it. It's so boring being an adult and being responsible. It really is a drag. If I was 30 years younger, I'd just be tempted to just jump in a caravan and be a gypsy. And seriously. But this adulting thing is just so not what it's cracked up to be. I thought it'd be way better when I was a kid, really. But and so Operation Mother-in-Law, we've had to wait so that we've got a little bit of money to that awful green stuff to get everything fixed up and mother-in-law ready. So by mother-in-law ready, we've got a downstairs part of this house that's like a garage, but nowadays, because the house was built in the 70s, nowadays it's actually really too small to get most cars in. Like, I'll get my car in because it's only a little hatchback, like a little key ring. But most cars, like four-wheel drives and stuff, you wouldn't get in the door. They wouldn't fit. And so most people around here, even though it's not legal because the height is too low, they convert them into bedrooms or student retreats or whatnot. You are allowed to have a bathroom and a kitchen though, even though it's a little bit less in height. So because it overlooks the pool area, I've got a little kitchenette going in, not with an oven or anything, but just with a fridge and a sink, and probably get a fancy microwave or something for down there, and kettle, toaster and things like that. She lives on toast, so I think I just need to put a toaster and a kettle there for her, honestly. And what else have I got going in there? I've got a small bathroom going in there. It's just got a shower in it and a small vanity. But I think that's sort of enough for that area. You don't need anything hugely big. And by small, I mean it's like 750 wide vanity and a 1,000 or 1,200 shower. So it's not tiny type. I've certainly had bathrooms that are smaller in places I've lived. So I need to get the bathroom done and I need to get the kitchen done. We've got a concrete slab floor there and we were going to tile it, but it's just working out too expensive. So we think we might do an epoxy floor covering on it now, and the advantage of that is that I can do that myself. It's pretty easy. So I might do that and I'll sort of give a look of polished concrete. And then we've got to sheet up all the walls and plaster them all. And as well as doing that, we still haven't finished painting the house. And I've still got one little bit of render to do out the front. And we've got, landscaping to do. And we've still got two bedrooms that we need to paint upstairs in the house. So we've got lots of things to do and lots of little itty-bitty things that are associated with that, like all the little tiny things that you forget to do or that you're going to do one day. Like I've got 6 curtains still to hem up, and I hate hemming curtains, especially when my sewing machine's not here and I'm hemming it with that double-sided iron-on tape, which is just a nightmare to deal with when you've got really long curtains, and they look awful. As soon as I go get my sewing machine, I'll redo them. I left a bit of room so I can hem them up again properly. But just all these little things. And at the moment, our big project is the pool. So we've inherited, when we bought this house, and it was one of the reasons why we bought it, was this giant pool that we've got in the backyard. And it's like 10 metres by 5 metres wide, and a spa as well, and it's got like a little kidney shape type thing to it. So it hasn't been used for like 10 years according to the neighbours and according to our pool guy, but because it's concrete and it's quite big, it's worth quite a lot. So it'd actually be more expensive for us to fill it in than repair it. So we wanted a pool anyway. We've never had one. And so we decided that we were going to repair it. And last year we booked it in, but there was a mix-up with the emails and whatnot. And anyway, they didn't get our booking and we never got their contract. And then David's father got sick, so it all kind of worked out in the wash and we never went ahead with it. So we've had it booked in now for a year to get it repaired. And there was, a long time here because David didn't have a job and I didn't have a job that we thought that we'd have to put it off for another year and it'd be like the never-ending pool project. But, we finally were able to raise some pennies thanks to our bank to get the actual pool fixed. So what happens is you have to take all the old sort of render coating type thing off it, and then they re-pebblecrete it, they re-spray it type thing. And I did want all the little tiles around the top of the pool replaced and whatnot, but it was just going to be too dear. So the pool guy assures us once it's been cleaned that it'll look good, but I really don't believe him on that. I think it's going to look not so good, but anyway, we'll see what happens. There's only so far the pennies will stretch, and the pool aspect is more important at this stage. So, and it's also got these daggy old pebblecrete coping around the edge of it, but I've found a product that you can use to paint over that, so I can sort of hide that a bit, and one day we'll get that replaced, but for the moment I'll just be happy not to look at it. And anyway, so poor David's been in this pool for days now with a jackhammer taking off all the loose concrete. And some of the concrete comes off really easily and some, requires a bit of work. And I think for the first day he was using these jackhammer blade things that he had from work, and they were really old and whatnot. And he was struggling along and not getting a lot happening. And then the next day he thought he'll splurge and he'll buy new blades for it. And it was just like night and day when you have the right tools. So I think these new blade things were only like $20 and they've saved him so much time. So that's good. But he's still got, he said to me yesterday that he thought he had a few more hours left, and I said looking at the square metres, because he's forgetting that as he gets more into the pool it gets deeper and it's a big pool. I thought he's got at least 3 more afternoons, or at least a day and a half in real time more work to actually do with the jackhammer on it. And the other thing is you can't consistently use the jackhammer because it gets too heavy to lift, and also it gets too hot, and you've got to sort of wait for it to cool down a bit. Sorry, Millie is bumping that tripod again. She's a naughty little girl. But so yeah, I think he's still got a few more days to go there, and last night he thought that I might be right on my estimate on how many more days of jackhammering he's got to do. But like all projects, he was really excited to start it, and then as the days have progressed, it's like, oh, when will it finish? But it will all be worth it in the end, hopefully. And the good news, I guess, is the pool was meant to be done next week, but they've actually postponed it because they've got delayed on another job. So that works out well because he's not under that much pressure to get the rest of the jackhammering done. And over the weekend, the reason that we didn't do anything sort of major for his birthday was because we'd hired one of these machines, a trench digger thing, that digs up your garden basically to make the channels for all the plumbing and the electrical that needs to go into the pool. So he spent 2 days with the trench digger, because the ground that we've got is really hard. It's clay and there's a lot of roots from trees, etc. So you could only dig a little bit before you actually had to sort of clean the machine up and cut roots out manually. And so, he'd be getting the chainsaw out and other reciprocal saws and whatnot, and, trying to move them all. And yeah, so big job getting those trenches. And some of them he'll still have to hand dig out a little bit for the electrical and the plumbing. So yeah, loads of work there. And just to add to it, we've got this huge palm tree by the pool, which looks beautiful, but because it's right on the pool edge, it's really going to be a nightmare later on. Fronds will be dropping into the pool and dirt, and it's just too close to the pool. I said that when we first bought the house, it needs to be moved. So guess who's got the job of moving it? It's massive. There's massive palm tree, and we're hoping to save it. So we're hoping that we can reuse it in another part of the garden where it has some space to actually spread out and move, and so that the pool will look better and nicer and whatnot. But we still need to buy more plants and whatnot. So poor David, he's been in between the jackhammering and whatnot. He's been digging a massive hole for this palm tree to go to. And then we've been trying to figure out how we're actually going to get the thing down, because it's like 7-8 metres high, and it's not just one palm, there's like a cluster of them. So yeah, we're sort of thinking that we might have to tie it up and sort of attach it to the tow bar and sort of move it, because it's going to be way too heavy. I'm sorry I've gone out of camera here. I didn't realise I was just right on the edge of the frame here. I'm getting these little wings coloured in. And so I've been doing what I can. I've been painting the fencing. So we've got quite a lot of fence because the block is 37 metres deep. So if you do both sides of the fence, because we're on the corner, that's a lot of painting. And I'm only 5'2". I'm only Smurf size. So for some of it, I have to get my little step ladder out so I can reach right up to the top of the fence. And I've been painting mainly the side fences and whatnot. But I've got a spray gun now, and I'm dead keen to use that, but haven't had the opportunity yet. It's been a bit too windy to use a spray gun. I don't think all the neighbours would like me to spray their houses with it, but hopefully on the weekend it will be sort of cool enough to paint, but also not so windy that the paint goes everywhere. So that'll be good. Oh, Millie, bumping the camera, you naughty little girl. And so we're back in frame now. And so as well as painting, I'm still rendering that front of the house. It got too hot for me to finish. And I also needed to get on the big scaffold to do it. And of course, I understand why David does it, but he's really off-putting when he lectures me on getting on the scaffold. He makes out like it's, this massive big deal when I've been on scaffold before, and it's, not really a big deal at all. It's just, you're up high, and obviously, you only have a limited amount of safety there, but as long as you're conscious of that and don't do anything silly and whatnot, it's, it's reasonably safe. And so I was up on the scaffold for like the height of the building, which is about 6 metres, and he was doing the whole panicky thing, which was quite off-putting. I was quite pleased when he went to work so I could just be up there by myself without having him do all the worry stuff, which I understand why he does it. He's on scaffold all the time at work, whereas, I'm on scaffold once every 10 or 15 years, but still, it's no big deal. But, and so I've got like maybe I'm over 2/3 finished. I've done 2 parts of the rendering, and I still need to do one more bit, but I need him to help me move the scaffold so I can reach up high. And this bit will be the tricky bit because I can't go too high, and I have to be super careful because we've got an electrical power line running over it, so I can only go up a little bit. I want to keep well away from the power line. And then once I'm up a reasonable amount, the guy over the road's an electrician, and he'll come over and cut the mains off for me for a few hours so that I can finish up that bit. But he doesn't like to work on weekends, so I don't really want to bother him on the weekend when he's with his family, but you know, we'll see how we go with that. And so I'd really like to get that finished because it takes, a few days for it to properly cure before you can paint it. And the colour of this house is just horrible. It's like baby nappies. It's just really disgusting. I can't wait for it to be a different colour. And so as well as rendering and the painting, he's got me a few more jobs that he wants me to do. Painting all the internal doors. Wants me to put this tint on the windows. He was originally going to help me with that, but now that's my job. But I have to get all the windows off to do it. And obviously I've got to organise the tradies and stuff, which I have organised most of them, but unfortunately my tiler that I've used before has now moved to Uluru, which is another state in Australia. For those overseas, it's where the big rock is in the middle of Australia, and you might know it as Ayers Rock, but it's really called Uluru. It's an important part of Aboriginal culture. And until a month or so ago, people were allowed to climb up Uluru. Actually, I'll put a picture up here if I can find one. People were allowed to climb up Uluru and whatnot, but now that's no more. There was a huge queue of people trying to get up there before they decided to close it down. So he's actually living out there on one of the settlements now, which is like pure desert and even hotter than here. And they're loving it, and so they're not coming back to Queensland, and so now I have to find a new tiler, which is a shame because he was really good. So I've got to find a tiler to tile a bathroom before Christmas, or otherwise I'm going to have to do it myself, which I think I could probably do because I've made heaps of mosaics, and I've tiled on the wall before, but I haven't tiled on the floor. And that's a lot trickier to get the fall into a walk-in shower, but that's what YouTube's for. Last time I gyprocked walls and stuff, I was up at 2 in the morning watching YouTube videos on how to do it. And when we got a quote for some plastering, they said, God, whoever did this bit was really good. And I thought, yep, that was me at 2 in the morning. But I like plastering. It's sort of like icing a cake. And so as well as doing my DIY, I've also been colouring, so obviously this picture, and trying to organise a Christmas giveaway for, I don't know if it's going to be on YouTube or Instagram, I'm not really sure, but something, pre-Christmas, maybe next week. Do some sort of giveaway because I usually have 2 giveaways on YouTube, and I've had one this year and kind of need the other one. On my Colouring Queen Facebook page I have one every 2 months, and in my Colouring Queen group also one every 2 months, so there's usually one every month somewhere, but I haven't had one on Instagram, I don't think, ever, and I've only had the one this year on YouTube, so thinking about something for that. I've also been working on my Christmas gift guide for my blog. of, all the cool things that you can get for Christmas. So there's some pretty nice things out there. And as well as that, I've been playing in my garden, which is, getting to be my favourite thing. But you can only play in it, it's so hot up here, you can only play in it early in the morning because it's just too hot in the middle of the day to be out there. So this morning it's going to be 39 degrees, so I went out there very early this morning and watered everything and gave it a good soaking because I thought the little darlings, they're going to need it today. It's going to be hot as, so they're really going to need a good little drinky this morning. And I was really surprised to see I'd planted some poppies and most of them had died. They didn't seem to work at all. And November's Remembrance Day month, so it's obviously poppies are associated with it. And this morning I came out and there was one red poppy there, which was really nice because it looks like it just came up special for Remembrance Day. So I hope it lasts until it's got another 3 days to go before Remembrance Day, so hopefully it will last. And I'm just using my rubber here to tone it down a bit. It's not to sort of take it off, it's more to soften it up and tone it down a bit. Because I'm only colouring on cheap copy paper. Thank you, Millie. Thank you, Millie. And it's not very easy to blend your Prismacolors on the cheap copy paper. Sometimes it's just easier just to run a rubber across it and soften things down that way. Because that paper, it doesn't have a lot of grip. I think it's an 80 GSM, just normal photocopy paper. And so my little poppy came out, which was lovely, and all these impatiens seeds that I planted and that have grown, they're now starting to produce flowers, which is nice. And in my veggie garden, I've got some sort of little critter, I think, visiting. I don't know if it's a possum or if it's like a native rat, or I don't know. But I did have 2 beautiful plump red strawberries and they disappeared. And it's been really upsetting me. I feel like putting out CCTV to catch the strawberry culprit. And I had a zucchini out there and something's been nibbling on it, so I don't know what it is, but I'm not very happy about it. But they're all going really well. I hadn't realised at all that zucchini sort of grows so much, and it's all over the place. It's taken over. It's everywhere. I've got zucchini dripping down the sides of the planter box and all over the place. But it's got nice little flowers on it and lots of bees out there, so it's all good. I don't know what it is about the garden, but you really enjoy just sitting there. And I never thought I would say this. I always thought people that gardened were a bit weird. But just sitting there watching the plants, and every day they seem to do something or produce something. Or I've got zucchinis there, and I've got corn there, and tomatoes coming up, and capsicums, and all sorts of stuff. And every day you look, something's happening. It's just amazing. But I do need to get out into the heat, unfortunately, and plant some seeds for the next round of flowers because, again, the mother-in-law project, she's very good at gardening, and she's always given me plants over the years that I've promptly killed just through my neglect and bad gardening. So I'm kind of hoping to impress her a bit with, I've got, I think, about 8 azaleas, about 4 or 5 gardenias, and I've got climbers and frangipanis that I've planted, and evergreen frangipanis, climbing frangipanis, a frangipani tree, lots and lots of flowers, impatiens, marigolds, cosmos, poppies, cornflowers, all sorts of flowers. The actual ones, the cutting flowers that would look great in a vase, which is what I wanted. I wanted lots of flowers that I could cut and put in vases. They don't seem to be doing very well for me, and it's only things like impatiens or marigolds or violas or, things that are more ground cover or pot level that seem to be doing okay for me. I don't seem to have a win with the cut flowers, which is a shame because I would have really liked those. But I've got a few, don't get me wrong, but I thought I'd look down and it'd be like a colouring book with a field of flowers there, and instead it's just like a few lonely cut flowers, and it's the smaller ones that seem to do a lot better for me. I can't wait until we get this pool done because it gets so warm up here and it's so humid, and I really don't like the heat. I really do not like it. I only moved up here, we had air conditioning and a pool, and having to wait a year for the pool's been hard, but hopefully it'll all be worth it. And we're getting one of those, they put mineral salts in the pool, so it's like having a relaxing bath. They say it's really good for your joints and whatnot. So I think that would be nice to come home to and just relax in it. I mean, the weird thing is I'm so excited about the pool, but I actually can't swim. I can only do underwater, but I do have lots of floaty toys, and there is a shallow end of the pool. And when I was in it the other day, I was sort of working out, like, if I was in the deep end, what I could hold on to. But and I can do underwater, but I just can't do freestyle swimming, which every other Australian seems to be able to, except for me. But and I do have like this giant swan floaty toy, so I can float around on that, and also grab onto it if I feel like I've gone off into the deep end too much. Because this pool it's like 1.5 meters deep up the deep end, so I think I'll probably stick to the baby pool section of it or the spa section of it because I'm a bit of a wuss that way, but we'll see how we go. I just can't wait to get in it after all this time and not have it being used as a big bird bath by all the local wildlife. Because all the birds like to soar over it and then, dive down into it. So it'll be funny having it actually as a pool. And none of the neighbours have ever seen it with actual water in it. So it's going to be a bit amusing for everyone, I think. And I predict that all the neighbours that haven't spoken to us all year, will soon become our best buddies and be banging on the door and bringing a towel and asking if they can test out the pool. Yeah, I shouldn't have used this paper, and it wasn't actually normal copy paper. Now that I think about it, it was just some paper that was just thin, and I had it sitting there, and it didn't have a label on it, so I just thought I'd use that because it was the first thing I grabbed. But it wasn't a lot of fun doing this shading bit because it just wouldn't blend, and that's why I was using my rubber. Now I could have used just like an alcohol pen, like a Copic blender pen, or a Spectrum Noir, or a Derwent, or a Tombow, even any of those blender pens, or just make my own blender mix to blend it together. But I think it's fine because you want some texture in the little polar bear anyway. So, and also I knew that I was going to put some white little snowflakes over it, so it didn't really matter if it wasn't blended perfectly in together. And plus, I'm not really good at blending anyway, so I'm only a beginner here, so we'll just, see what happens. I really didn't know how to deal with this big white bit on the polar bear, like his rump. And so I wasn't sure if I should go over that in like strokes and make it look like fur, or try and blend it in. But yeah, I'm happy with it where it ended up. I think it looks nice, and it looks, I think, nicer in person than what it does on film. It looks quite cute in person. I really like it. And I really like that Molly put this up as an individual page to buy. So I've spent ages, 45 minutes talking about myself, blah, blah, blah. And what have you guys been up to? Are you taking part in the polar bear colouring event? Are you colouring? Are you getting ready for Christmas or some other celebration or event that you have on? Are you gardening? Are you cozying up watching telly or snuggling up to a cute furry little pet or a slithery one or one with 8 legs or whatever? What are you guys up to? And if you're colouring in for this as well, let me know so I can check out your pictures on Instagram. The girl that's organised this event is Imogen at Colouring Kit, so I'll leave a link to her channel below. And when I was looking for polar bear pictures, there's actually a lot more than what I thought out there. Like, if you don't have any polar bear pictures, Joanna Basford has that free download on her website for her Christmas polar bear, and it's the one with the polar bear sitting on all the glaciers with all the presents around it, which looks as cute as a button. There's my Korean colouring book. It's got pictures of polar bears in it as well. It's called Let's Go Camping or something like that, I think. There's A Million Bears by Lulu Mayo, which has got polar bears in it as well. There's Molly Harrison. She's got quite a lot of polar bear pictures in her store. She's got one similar to this with like a little fairy on it. She's got ones without fairies or elves or anything like that. And she's got line art versions available as well. On Etsy, I've seen quite a few other polar bear pictures from other independent artists as digital stamps, which are just like colouring pages anyway, so you can colour those in as well. But yeah, there's quite a few out there. But if you want a freebie, Joanna Basford's got that free one of the Christmas gifts, and you can find that on Joanna's blog. So just adding a little bit more fur to this little bear. Now I know I didn't get it like Molly's, but I'm also not Molly. So I had a crack at being inspired by her and trying to do this sort of dreamy polar bear. And I really like how it turned out because I've never done a fluffy animal like this before, so I really liked it. But I doubt that I would have been able to do it without being inspired by Molly's picture, because I just really fell in love with that and wanted to do something a bit similar to it. Just all the little different colours and techniques that she had in it. And of course I've forgotten to do the hand, which I always forget something. I always look at a picture and think I've done it all, and I haven't. I don't know if you guys do that or if it's just me, but I always find, even if I've photographed it or videoed it, that there's this point where I've got missed something out completely. So So this is going to add a little bit of black on here, some black highlight. And I wasn't worried about that background not showing up the snowflakes because they sort of show through on the page. And then I'm going to add some white paint and some glitter snow to it, which I've never done that before either, so it's a day of firsts for me. I'm so clogged up at the moment, I'm going to have to go and blow my nose, and I shall be back in a minute. So I'm just going to use some poster paint just from the discount shop. It's nothing fancy, just in white, and I've mixed a little bit of water in there just to make it loose so I can splatter some and make a snow background. Now, I did practice this on a scrap piece of paper because I've never splattered white paint all over my colouring page before. And I wanted to make sure that I was at the right height and how to do the flick to make it splatter and make it look like snow. So I'm sure there's a lot of other techniques that I could have used and whatnot, but that's the one that I decided to go with. And I've also got some glitter snow as well. So I got the glitter snow, and I'll leave a link to that below. It wasn't that expensive, and it looks like snow with glitter in it basically, and you can apply it on either with a knife and make sort of lumpy snow if you want, or you can do what I'm doing and put it on a stencil and run over it with a knife. Now, I just used the palette knife that comes with the pan pastels because I didn't have anything else, and that worked fine, but I did lift the stencil up a bit too quick and there were some half stars and whatnot. So when it dried, because this is like a 3D product, it sort of sits above the page, I just came over with my fingernail and picked off any little paint blobs or any glitter snow that I felt was too much, because I think I overdid the stars and the snow and whatnot in the background. Got too carried away with all the excitement of doing these new things. So I picked it off with my fingernail after. So I'll put a picture of the finished product at the end of this video. And I think that's all I've got to say. If you want to join in the colour along, it's Polar Bears in November. It's organised by Colouring Kid. Her channel is linked below. The colouring page from Molly Harrison, a link to that is below, as well as the glitter snow. And that's it from me and my very first colour along. Until next time, happy colouring.